All right. Hey, everybody. So good to see you on this Tuesday. I'm so excited to be able to have my husband, David Charon, to come and speak to everyone about PSYCH-K and Reiki. There's been a lot of good questions lately about how we can best support you in your healing journey. And we really have seen some amazing things with Reiki and PSYCH-K. And a lot of people have never heard of either one. So it's a really great opportunity for you to ask questions and learn more about it and see what else David does and meet my husband, which I'm always very excited to bring on camera.
Yeah, I'm actually a real life person, not just a sweatshirt hung over the back of the chair. So,
he's not made up, he's
just
real.
So everybody knows, yeah.
So I guess we could start off by, if you would like to share your story of how you even got to this place.
This place right here?
This place right
you
here.
said, honey, come on up.
Yeah.
Well, all right, so I know you want me to tend to go for the short version. So as far as this place in the work that I do, it was a product of just looking for my own answers, having dealt with some pretty serious depression, lack of self-esteem, no sense of purpose, or understanding about what it took to make life work. Basically, I just reached a point where, despite all my searching and everything that I felt like I knew, I had to basically admit that, I didn't have all the answers, and just really kind of get humble and be open to what, whatever higher intelligence there was willing to show me, and that's pretty much how it started. My work has become kind of simplified into these two main modalities. And I tend to find that the simple answers are usually the best ones, and so we don't have to, go around trying to find a bunch of different things. If you get one or two things that really work for you, it can make all the difference in the world.
So what was life like before you learned about Reiki and PSYCH-K? What were some of the experiences that you had?
Well, Reiki was really one of the major turning points for me, and prior to that, my life felt kind of linear and mechanical and just lacking in magic. Things like energy and spirituality and the esoteric things were sort of an afterthought, more of a hobby than anything else. And once I began pursuing Reiki and experiencing it and sharing it with others, I noticed that it wasn't even just something new that I was doing or trying out, but that it literally transformed my entire life in the context within which I frame all of my life experiences. So it's been nothing short of transformative for me.
And lucky for me, a lot of people don't realize when David and I first met, I had just started my company and I wasn't sure yet what I wanted to do. I just knew I wanted to help people who had been through major toxic relationships and just help people out. And when David and I met, we actually met online. So you can meet good people online. Here we go.
You're not all crazy.
And one of the things that really stood out to me was the fact that he was interested in Reiki and the kind of more the spiritual side and in helping others. That was something that he was drawn to. So, lucky for me, we were on the same journey and were able to find each other. And so not only we had so much in common, but we were able to come together and help each other out in our own journeys and also help others along on theirs as well.
Long, strange trip it's been, huh?
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Only 3 years so far, so
yeah.
A lot of good things ahead, and glad to share. I would want to tailor any information that I share to whatever questions you guys have. So if there are any questions out there, definitely shoot them over.
Well, I see Melissa's already asking about PSYCH-K, so let's get into it. So what is, and hello to everybody that we haven't said hi to yet. Thank you everybody for coming on a Tuesday this late at night. But PSYCH-K is always one of those things that is really interesting to me because of how quickly it can change some of your negative thought patterns, and especially someone like myself who had been in codependent relationships. Those negative thought patterns were keeping me trapped in those toxic relationships. So, what are some things? Can you tell the audience what PSYCH-K is and what you do in a session?
PSYCH-K is very simply high-speed mindset change. I think of the idea, it's often described that if you do something for 21 or 30 days consistently in the right focused mindset, that it can change your thoughts and your behavior in it, and you can replace disempowering habits, negative habits with positive ones. This effectively engages the mechanics of psychological change in a matter of literally 2 to 5 minutes. The bottom line is everything that we think and feel and experience comes from our beliefs. It's all about belief systems. We can struggle to understand our individual stories and all that, but it always comes down to belief systems. And PSYCH-K empowers you as the individual to transform old patterns that aren't serving you. And I very often use the analogy of editing a Word document, or even just upgrading the software, your operating system for your life. You can shift your mindset and notice how the things that used to push your buttons don't even have to come into your life as much. That's really the short version, but what it really requires is an understanding of where you're at, and that by that I mean a high degree of self-honesty. We find in the PSYCH-K community that people come to it when they're ready for it, and just like even traditional talk-based therapy will suppose that a person isn't going to change until they want to change. So when you've kind of gotten some leverage on yourself, a lot of times that's by way of things getting really bad, and you finally just saying, I can't take anymore, I'm going to lose it, or I give up, I got to try something different. When you're at that point and you're really willing to change, willing to take a look and admit that you don't have all the answers. Obviously, if you did, your life would probably be working out better, and start to be open to some new ideas. That's when it seems to me that people kind of cross paths with PSYCH-K or me or any one of the hundreds of other facilitators around the world. So it starts out with knowing that you really want to change, and starting to be honest with yourself about where you're at and what parts of your life aren't working. And then the second crucial part is having an idea of where you want to be and what you want your life to look like. It's not enough to simply want to eliminate the negative things in your life. You have to have something to put in its place. And I say nature abhors a vacuum, so you have to have a picture of the new life that you want to move into. And once you've taken the time to get creative, get imaginative, and again, really get honest, the actual process to make significant changes in your life is actually very elegant and very simple. And PSYCH-K is one modality within the realm of what's commonly called energy psychology that can really empower you to break out of these old cycles, these old patterns, and actually really start to experience not only greater empowerment and new and exciting things in your life, but a much greater sense of peace of mind, which I think is the byproduct that everyone's really looking for, whether they know it or not.
And just to jump in, I think one of the things that's really important to realize is that there's, again, from comments that I've seen in the groups that we run, is that there's a lot of people that say, I don't even really know what it's supposed to look like. I don't really know what a healthy relationship is supposed to be. I don't know what feeling good and healthy is. And one of the great things about David is that he's very good at helping you figure that out. He can help you, really craft that statement that is real for you, and help you as a coach. I mean, that's one of the things that he does. So he's able to help figure out what the issue is and help you figure out the right way of saying it to make those changes into a reality.
The best way, again, I can describe that is just going back to the idea of it being a software upgrade for your mind. Mm-hmm. Now, it's been said that if you have an experience of depression or sadness or anger or bitterness or self-loathing or anxiety or any of those so-called negative things, being that we live in a relative world, you wouldn't know what those are unless you've had the opposite experience at least once in your life. Mm-hmm. And what I do as a coach and a facilitator is to try to basically get those positive thoughts and feelings back into your consciousness so we can start to play with them. But even if you don't have a clear picture of what your life should look like or what you really want it to look like, not unlike software, you can kind of shop around. Mm-hmm. So it could be something as simple as you start immersing yourself in a spiritual milieu, if you will, and actually start reading some books, some philosophical, some esoteric, some spiritual type books. And even if you take like the favorite book that you've read, you can very often distill the key messages down to a few key points and then use that to craft a statement, a belief statement, that by way of PSYCH-K, you then program in to your subconscious mind and make true for you. And the great thing about PSYCH-K is it's not a matter of wishful thinking or affirmations or just, even struggling to be consciously aware of every thought, word, and action, that you generate. Because what it's doing is getting down to the software, the core beliefs, the programming, the autopilot functions. So even when your conscious mind might say, oh, no, I know I should forgive my parents, or I know I should, think before I speak, I know I should maintain healthy boundaries, any of those sorts of things, what PSYCH-K is doing is getting that understanding into your subconscious, so it's not a matter of even trying or thinking about it. Mm-hmm. Your knee-jerk reactions, the automatic reactions, those autopilot functions, when maybe your conscious mind gets distracted, instead of being the old type that are just repeating these old programs and patterns, it's now the new type that is of your choosing. And one of the biggest benefits, regardless of where it is that you're looking to go, is that you have a much greater just abiding sense of peace, less stress, and a much greater adaptability to whatever life throws at you. One of the key distinctions that you got to make when you're starting on this is whether you believe that your happiness is a function of having everything go your way, or would it be better to say, no matter what comes my way, good or bad, I'm able to deal with it. And when you look at the simple option of making one of those choices, I think most people would say that, no, look, I don't want life to be perfect and exactly the way I want it and predictable. I just want to be better able to cope with whatever comes my way. And in that sense, this work is incredibly empowering.
And that's what I find so cool about it, is because to change those disempowering, limiting beliefs is hard work, unless you have the right tools to make it just normal for you.
Well, the reason that it's very often hard is because we can get the insight, but if knowing something was all it was required to make change, then we'd all be in a much better place. Mm-hmm. The reality is, even when you seem to know better, and yet you still backslide into old behaviors, it's because you're not communicating with the right part of the mind. Mm-hmm. And one of the key distinctions in this work is the difference between the conscious mind and the subconscious mind, where the subconscious is essentially a record playback mechanism, mm-hmm. where from birth, or according to some even earlier, to about age 6, we're just in that absorb mode. We have parental and societal influences telling us how the world is and who we are in that world, right? So we just kind of blindly take that in. We're in that mode where we're relying on these people to let us know about our environment. Well, the reality is that most of those beliefs are very often dysfunctional, but what our parents and school and teachers and church had all learned themselves. So it's this is an opportunity to break the cycle. Now, wherever it is that you get your inspiration, you need to believe that there's something greater out there for you. You need to believe that you are greater than you've been led to believe. If everything was fine, you wouldn't have any motivation to change. And you don't even need to know all the reasons you got screwed up in the first place. You don't need to know whose fault it is in terms of why you have this low self-esteem, or this neediness in relationships, or this inability to attract abundance into your life. The past doesn't equal the future. Like they say, the wake doesn't drive the boat. All you need to know, again, is where you're at and where you want to be. And then you essentially craft a simple statement that, were it true for you, the outcomes you're seeking would be natural. It's not even a matter of effort. Motivation really has nothing to do with it, which is so great, because I used to think for the longest time that in order to change, it was about working through the pain and working hard and suffering and beating yourself up and stuff like that. And again, once you're really ready and you have a picture of how your life should be, even if you don't believe that you really deserve it yet, then we work on those core beliefs. What your beliefs are around what you deserve, and take it a step at a time, but you can get there.
And that's something to add too, is that we're not black and white. It's gray. Like, as human beings, there's a lot of gray. So there might be things that you might have to come at from different angles. Some feelings that you're having that you don't realize is really coming from 4 different angles. So you might have to have 4 different belief statements to change those patterns of behavior. So sometimes sometimes meeting just once and having a session. And by the way, this is all can be done online, which is really awesome. But just having one session is enough. But for some people, they need a few. And some of the things, and I'm very much a believer in what are the results. So what did people, what actual real results are people having? And I've seen the results from clients that we've had that have worked with David. I mean, and it's literally given people their life back. I mean, people that were, I'm thinking of one of our clients, he may or may not be watching, but he was in a very negative place in his life and just kind of waiting, life was not going very well for him. And I'm actually thinking of a few clients now that I'm saying that. But there was a few of them, life was just not going very well in a few sessions, and then all of a sudden they took their life back, and now they're creating and doing all of these great things. One of our friends has a lung issue and was a musician and couldn't really do much and was just sitting feeling like poor me, and after a few sessions playing music and being in a band, still has a lung issue, but he's not letting that hold him back from living anymore. And so I think that's the big thing, is that you have a whole life ahead of you, and there's a lot of people that say, I'm too old to make the change. It's too ingrained. I'm too broken. I'm too damaged. But the reality is that we all have stuff. We all have crap that we're dealing with. So there is definitely with the right tools, the right person, you can definitely make those changes if that's what you're looking to do.
Well, I think fundamentally, whether we realize it or not, we make our own rules about living. And for the first part of our lives, those rules may have been handed down to us, but you do have the opportunity to change the game and actually set things up so that you win more easily, so to speak. And you were talking about before, Steph, with the different layers and stuff like that. It is true, and that brings to mind the concept that what we're looking to do is change things on the fundamental core level. When you think about like modern medicine, for example, much of it is designed to treat the symptoms of disease, sometimes the mechanics of disease, and interrupt those disease processes. But a holistic approach looks at the origin of disease. On the psychological level, that's what PSYCH-K does. For example, you might have a desire to be more social, be more lighthearted and friendly in social settings and stuff like that. And you might think that, well, okay, I just I need to be more confident in my ability to speak, for example. You might think on the surface that, okay, that's what I need in order to affect the change that I'm looking for, but it may actually turn out that there's something deeper. When you start doing this work and start examining these issues, you can start to peel back the layers of the onion, so to speak, and find out that there are things underneath. Maybe, in fact, it's not your ability or inability to speak in a certain way. Maybe it's an underlying belief, even preceding that you're not worthy of admiration or respect from other people. So, we're complex creatures, but, what you do on this process is stop, well, they say when the first thing to do when you find yourself in a hole is stop digging. So, you can start to break these patterns, and even just by sitting down with a PSYCH-K facilitator, getting a coaching session, a consult, you'll start to get new ideas. And again, the big part about this is it's a do-with process, not a do-to process. And it's crucial that you guys understand that. That's why we refer to ourselves as facilitators as opposed to practitioners, because the reality is that all the power for positive change and the power to lay the groundwork for an exceptionally joyful, peaceful existence and life is, and always has been, with you. So what this does is really just unleashes your dormant faculties, and it's really brilliant the way it works, because you'll realize before long that you are capable of far more than you realized, and the only limitations to what you can experience is your imagination. So if you're going to give yourself a shot, might as well go for the gusto and just say, you know what, if I had the choice, my life would be awesome. And maybe it's not even about grand things, but just the way that you treat yourself and treat your loved ones and other people, and the way that affects how circumstances flow into your life in happier ways. It doesn't have to be anything crazy, but whatever your life is going to be, it's really up to you to decide. And if you're going to embark on this, you have to be willing to accept that principle. You know, I think about the expression, with great power comes great responsibility. And some people I find don't want to change, and they're actually too frightened of living life on their own terms to even, you know, get exposed to this stuff, whether they even, you know, undertake it or not.
Fear can really hold people back. I was thinking as you were talking, that one of the things I say pretty often is, you know, I was looking for someone to come save me, when in reality I was my own knight in shining armor, that we really are the heroes in our own stories. But it really is important to have the right support team and the right people that are giving you the tools to discover who you really are, who's at the core of yourself. Because that's what it is. How would you know about PSYCH-K and some of these other really amazing things if you didn't have an outside source to help you? So, you know, again, some of our thought patterns might be wrong from what we've experienced before. So it's really important to have the right support to be able to help us with those thought patterns that need a little bit of fixing. And then, of course, you know, with the PSYCH-K, you're really able to, it's like a switch from what I've seen from clients. I mean, and even I was thinking, I was telling David probably a few months ago that I was really nervous about speaking in front of a large audience. And it's something, as much as I'm a public speaker and I do it all the time, there's something about public speaking in certain situations, not all, but in certain. And when we started getting down to it, the reason why was this core belief that I had that I was going to let people down. And I was afraid that I was going to let people down, and that fear was what was making me so nervous. So once you figure out what it is and you're able to make those changes, then all of a sudden that fear is gone, and fear will keep us trapped. So, you know, it's good to have, again, the right tools to get us out of that kind of trapped feeling.
Well, the knowledge and the tools about how our minds work are crucial, but you talk about the support system, and I want to introduce a key concept here, because, you know, I know for myself sometimes it's frustrating wondering, well, what the heck is actually going on? What is the truth of all of this? And, you know, some people become crusaders and actually just go on this mission to read and absorb as much stuff as they can. And I mean, there are things like, you know, type of people like seminar junkies, and they actually just go to, you know, seminars and retreats and all this stuff, thinking that just accumulating knowledge is going to help them. Hiring coach upon coach upon coach, but they're still not making the change.
You gotta do.
Well, but the thing is, in terms of the support and the guidance, the inspiration and the source of energy, more so even than having a coach, is the idea that your higher self plays a part in this as well. We call this in during a PSYCH-K session, and the simple idea is that they're the same intelligence that created the body heals the body. And you have to begin to recognize that there is a greater intelligence. And the relevance here is that when you begin to open up to your higher self, your soul, God, spirit, whatever you want to call it, if you really do approach this with an open mind, even simply just asking, you know, like it says, ask and ye shall receive. You know, stop trying to tell the universe your story and listen so it can tell you its story for you. Prosaic way of saying, like, you know, shut your mouth and open your ears, and the answers can actually begin to come to you. Not even in terms of, you know, the minute things of, you know, how to respond in any, you know, random situation, but the actual, the whole paradigm, the context of your life. So, you know, you can read self-help books, go to therapists, get a coach, all that stuff, but there's a point where you learn to trust and recognize that there's a force at work in your life that is smart enough to keep your heart beating when you're not thinking about it, you know, attentive enough to, you know, tens of thousands of details to be able to get you from home to work while you're, you know, chatting with someone in the passenger seat and don't even realize how you got there. So, you know, when you start to recognize that there's an intelligence at work behind it, you can start to open up and allow that to begin to influence you, and that's huge because, you know, even Rob Williams, the originator of PSYCH-K, describes this as a spiritual process with psychological benefits, and you know, it's not even before long. It's not even just about, I want to quit this bad habit, I want to eat better, I want to quit smoking, or I want to, get along with people better. It actually becomes, I'm a divinely spiritual being, and everything has set me up to be where I am, and it's in perfect accord because there's nothing that escapes, the perfection of infinite creation. However you want to look at it, not to get too esoteric, but the reality is that, again, your life can be whatever you make of it, and if you allow for inspiration from higher sources, and again, it's not a religious concept, even if it's a matter of just meditating on your breathing, quieting your own mind, not dumbing down, but reducing your inner dialogue, you can begin to start hearing that still small voice that is simple but true and loving and forgiving, and can actually provide you with all the answers you need. And then you just do this work, you have these tools and information to actually make that a reality for you on a daily basis.
The universe might not always give you what you want, but it gives you what you need.
I should write a song about that.
Yeah. So, there's certain things, there's lessons that are there for us if we accept the lessons. And, I think about, do I wish that I had not been through some of the terrible relationships that I've been with? Do I wish that things were different in my life? Possibly, but I'm to a point now where I'm appreciative of all of those lessons because it's made me who I am, and I can see the lessons now, and I finally started listening, because for a while I was ignoring it and hoping that something would change without me having to do much about listening to the universe. But I wanted to actually stop for a second. Does anybody have any questions specifically about PSYCH-K? Because I would like to talk about Reiki, because we are about 30 minutes in, and I want to make sure that there are questions answered. And again, we're here for you, to serve you. So please, please, please jump in. We like that everyone's saying hello, and sorry for not saying hi back. But please jump in and ask the questions that you have.
Can we see the feed from over here?
We should be able to if you scroll down or refresh. Yep, keep going. So if there's any questions, please feel free to ask them anything about PSYCH-K. If not, we're going to start talking about Reiki, because Reiki is another really great tool that we use.
Click on this here.
In our healing practice. No, I think scroll down more. I put it in the regular page. No. I don't know. But it's all right. We can see people's questions on here, so it's fine. So it doesn't seem like there's any questions so far. Hello, everybody.
Can you scroll? Yes, who's still on? Nick Havel said, beliefs, conscious and subconscious, lead to thoughts, lead to emotions, lead to action. Well, absolutely. And it really is a linear progression. And recognizing that is huge, Nick. So right on, absolutely. And when you get to those core beliefs, everything flows from that, and it doesn't sometimes take more than just a small change in your direction to dramatically change the outcome. So that's really, and I love the simplicity of that.
Mm-hmm. Any other questions? I know there's like a 10-second lag, so if there's any questions, feel free. We can always stop and jump in on any questions that you have. I don't know what's going on.
No,
all right. So if you're watching this as a recording, we will answer any questions. We'll go back and answer any questions. But I would definitely like to talk about Reiki, because Reiki is actually really awesome. And I think that when I first came into contact with Reiki, I thought it was weird, probably to say the least. Little woo-woo, a little crazy, like you're going to send me some energy and it's going to make me feel better. I definitely thought it was a little bit strange. But I tell the story, I actually had gone to a Reiki healing circle, and I went there, and they explained a little bit about what Reiki was, and they had a circle. We all had to imagine sending positive energy to this person that was in the middle of the circle. And I just remember that one time where I was standing behind this woman, and I was sensing something about her heart, and I kept sending all of this energy towards her heart. And then she turned around, like at the end, and said to me, "Who was behind me?" And I said, "Oh, that was me." I was like, "Is that okay?" Because I had never done it before. I never even experienced it before. And she said, "I could feel the warmth coming from your body, going directly into my heart." She said, and I felt a white light coming out. And it ended up that she had like issues with her heart. I don't remember if it was heartbreak or an actual something wrong with her heart, but there was something going on with her heart specifically, and that's what she was hoping to get help for. And I didn't know her, and I didn't know that that was the issue. So it was interesting how I was drawn to that. And then after meeting David, I actually had bursitis in my left shoulder, and I had gone to a meeting in California, and he was in New York. And I had my backpack, and so the doctors had said to me, don't put anything on your shoulder, you're probably going to need surgery, there's nothing we can do, blah, blah, blah. So I get to California, my shoulder's sore because I had to use my backpack, and I said to David, I sent him a text message and said, hey, my shoulder is throbbing, it hurts so badly, I don't know if I'm going to make it through this whole session. And he said, okay, well, is there a place you can go lay down? And I said, no, I'm in meetings, for the next few hours. He said, okay, well, just be open to the Reiki, and I'll send you some positive healing energy. And about 10 minutes into it, all of a sudden I was like, my shoulder doesn't hurt at all. And it was, all of a sudden, it was just gone. It felt fine. And so I think probably once or twice more you've done some Reiki on my shoulder, but I haven't had any issues. And this was something that they were going to do surgery because there was nothing they could do. So, one of the things is it doesn't have to just be physical. It can be emotional as well. And of course, everyone's in a different area of their healing journey, but we've also seen some really, really cool, didn't you just do a Reiki session today? Yeah. And it's a regular client. It's someone that actually calls regularly when he's feeling like he needs another session, but it's something else we can do remotely. And I don't know if you've been a Reiki master teacher now for a while, so maybe you can share some information with everyone about what Reiki is and how it works.
Well, again, it's been a long journey. I'm a Reiki master teacher, and I've been a practitioner for going on 12 years at this point. So it's been a long journey for me, and it wouldn't be sufficient to, you can take a half an hour to describe everything that is involved and what it's done for me. But again, at its core, it's very simple. For myself personally, just a little backstory, I had a sense of what I would call energy, something that I couldn't describe through my traditional scientific logical upbringing. That it was just a sense that I had in my body for quite a long time, and never really thought much of it. Synchronistically, there came a time where I became introduced to Reiki through a dear friend of mine, and so much has changed since then. But essentially, Reiki is the basically the subtle life force energy that infuses everything, or you could say specifically that's ki. But Reiki is the energetic method of activating the conduits, the circuitry within yourself. One way I've heard it described is that everyone's wired for this energy, but Reiki plugs you into the source. So it's ki, it's called chi, prana, this life force energy, the force even, to use Star Wars vernacular, which is legit. So what Reiki is a gentle, hands-on healing method where the practitioner or Reiki master essentially acts as a conduit and more or less channels this energy into you. Now, it's not like Qigong, which a lot of people have heard of, where the practitioner is actually intentionally manipulating the energy. With Reiki, again, it trusts in the best and highest good for the recipient and trusts in their inherent knowledge, again, calling their higher self into the process. And what I mean by that is when you're getting a Reiki session, you're actually drawing the energy in. So as the practitioner, it's not as though I'm giving my energy to the client. One of the great things about giving a Reiki session is I get the benefit of getting a session myself, because essentially I, through meditation as part of this process, increase the flow in myself to where it overflows, and then I give from the overflow. So it's always an offering. A person doesn't even necessarily need to know that they're getting a session in order to benefit from it. Believe it or not, because the higher self is always aware of these things, and if there's healing that's needed and healing that's offered, very often it can be received. Of course, as a rule, I certainly respect everyone's individual place, and sometimes people have to hit bottom a few times before they actually get help. So I never have an agenda when I'm doing this work. It's more about whether or not the person who I've crossed paths with really needs my help. but it's a very beautiful, simple, gentle method that can have profound results, whether it be physical, mental, emotional, or spiritual. I mean, I could get more into the process, or some, kind of case studies or examples of clients that I've had, or
oh, definitely
anything like
some
that.
things. But I'm thinking, actually, as David's talking, my father, who's very conservative and not really as open to some of the stuff. He's interested in what we do, but he's kind of a little bit weary of it. And we had given him a Reiki session, and he had a really amazing experience. And so after that, he started saying, I'm not feeling well. Maybe you could give me some of that reggae thing you do. He calls it the reggae thing. But, I mean, there's been some really, again, amazing things we've seen. In fact, my mom has really bad arthritis, and she found a lot of relief from getting the Reiki treatment. So that's something that can be very helpful as well.
Yeah, let me stop you because I see Nick's got a question. Do you think Reiki is simply the power of our intention sent out, perhaps working by mechanisms similar to prayer? Absolutely, man. Absolutely. Reiki is one flavor of this work. And, sometimes we get trapped in labels, and I think that's why there's a lot of sort of spiritual ego sometimes, if that makes sense. People get attached to one way of doing things, but Reiki at the end of the day is just a word. Whether you call it prayer, I mean, Reiki has a history and a structure to it. But to a great degree, it's intuitive. But to answer your question, Nick, intention is really key. And intention is always the key, really. Everything starts with that desire and your intent, the energy that you put out there. And again, we sometimes throw around the word energy without really getting clear on what we mean. But what I can say is that whether it's prayer, a heartfelt, clear-minded desire to affect positive change, or if it's Reiki where you're creating the ground for self-healing by engaging a person's higher self and offering Reiki energy unconditionally, and with again, no agenda, but just an intention that the person receives. That's very often all it takes. And everybody has this ability. Being attuned, as we call it, and being trained in Reiki is simply a matter of refinement. You can call it upgrading your circuitry, however you want to look at it. This is something that is not special about me, certainly, or staff, as Reiki practitioners, or any of us. And I would certainly encourage anyone who's interested to pursue it and become trained and attuned, because you can help heal yourself, number one, and when you get better at that, you can help heal others as well. So sometimes whether I'm sitting down with the intention to do a structured Reiki session, or if I simply get quiet and intend for positive outcomes for a person and release myself from attachment to how things play out. They're very common, and there are a lot of commonalities between Reiki and prayer. But I guess to kind of wrap that up, I would say that there is a history and a structure to Reiki that is, I might say, a little bit more involved than prayer, but as far as that goes, it really comes down to becoming a lifestyle, whereas a prayer might be something that you do occasionally. The more you immerse yourself in Reiki and use that on a daily basis, it reshapes your entire life, and it sounds kind of cheesy, but your life kind of begins to be a walking prayer. Everything you do is colored by this, and it's a way to get more abundance flowing into your life. And when you work out your own stuff, your own physical and emotional and mental hang-ups, you naturally have more to give. So it's really a fantastic process, and self-fulfilling in a lot of ways.
And Reiki is interesting because you can do it remotely. Like PSYCH-K, we can do it remotely, and of course you can do it with a person there with you. I've actually found a lot of really great things about doing Reiki or receiving Reiki remotely, because there's certain hand positions that are done and certain symbols that have to be done during Reiki, but when you're further away, it's almost like you're able to use more of the whole person's body as you're going through it. So it makes it a little bit more, can be more intense for some people, at least from what I found.
I believe that's absolutely true, and I could go into the the scientific side of it, but I look at this work from both the spiritual side and also the side which I'll just say quantum physics, unity consciousness, understanding that everything is connected, and that as within so without. I mean, you can use a your upper leg, a doll, an empty massage table, a pillow. Realistically, even just meditating in your mind on the person as an analog, and you create a situation as though they were physically there with you, when in reality they can be across the country or around the world, as some of my remote clients have been.
And so when you're looking for a Reiki practitioner or a PSYCH-K facilitator, I'm saying it right? So if you're looking for those two people, then keep in mind that there is training and certifications, and my suggestion would be make sure that people have the training, and also look at how you feel after a session. If you're noticing that you're not really getting anything out of it, maybe you're just not having the right connection with that person for whatever reason. It's nothing personal, but really make sure that you're finding the right person. And of course, David is available for clients if you were interested in working with him. If you really some people are like, I do not want to do remote, I only want to do in person. That's fine too. You can do that, if you're not local to Long Island where we are, you can find someone locally for you. PSYCH-K, not as much. David happens to be there's not a lot of PSYCH-K facilitators. So here you are, you have one that you can access pretty easily online, but it is specialized training, and again, years of work that you've put into it to get to where you are.
Yeah, and again, it's not, I'm nothing special. There are a lot of facilitators out there, but if this is something that interests anybody, I would unquestionably recommend that you do more research, check it out. I'm grateful to be a resource, so if you want to comment on this video, post on my page, David Charon, RMT, get in touch with Steph. I'm always around, but essentially, if you're at a stage where you feel that you could make a change if you had the right tools, maybe you have a greater than ever level of frustration with the way that your life has been going, you can actually take heart in that, because it's always darkest before the dawn. I hate using cliches over and over again, but the biggest challenges in your life are very often the source of the biggest breakthroughs. And it's so gratifying to me with both Reiki and PSYCH-K, because I thought for the longest time that change was difficult, and that I was pretty much doomed to just be unhappy and repeat these same patterns and be in the same dependent relationships and be depressed and all that stuff for my whole life. And now I rarely think about the past, and who I was when I was a troubled teen just seems like a completely different person. And it's interesting, and PSYCH-K will show you that as much as we identify with our ego and the claim we've staked in the world, and what people think of us and what we have and what we do, and we believe that's our identity. I found the reality is that our personality is actually fluid, and it's not set in stone. And that's why for me it's so important to try to be non-judgmental, because I like to think that everybody's doing the best they can given their current level of understanding. And I believe that absolutely anybody can change. I mean, they say that you're never more than one thought away from having peace. But again, adversity in life is going to continue until you're willing to get the lessons that it's there to teach you. But once you are, the bad stuff that caused these issues doesn't have to happen anymore. And that's what I love about this, the magical part of it, because on the surface it's about changing habits or having less stress, more peace of mind. But the real effect is where it begins to actually show up as magic, and you even start to recognize things after the fact. Whereas, in reflection, you'll say, "Geez, if that situation happened to me, a year ago, I might have gotten all bent out of shape and gone into a downward spiral for days." And holy cow, it's literally a real surprise to a lot of people, especially my clients. And they say, they'll come back to me and tell me stories about how something happened that would have pushed their buttons in the past, but it didn't. And that to me is proof positive of real change actually taking place. They don't even think about it. They just realize after the fact that, oh, I am actually literally a different person. So, and it's not about judging who you are now or where you're at or what you've done. It's really not about that at all. If you could see your higher self as an unconditionally loving, approving parent that wants to look out for your best interest but also wants you to have your own life experience, then screw up as much as you want. When you're done screwing up, you can start to receive some real wisdom, and again, it's all within you. Coaches and facilitators like Stephanie and myself, if we're doing our job, it's really more about bringing out the best in you.
Yep, and the power of now, right? Eckhart Tolle, everything is now. So we're not living in the past, we're not living in the future. The change, the possibility is now. So I'd like to open up for any questions. Do you have any questions for David or even myself? Do you have questions about PSYCH-K? Do you have questions about Reiki? Do you have questions about maybe from us in general? I actually have him on. David's normally always busy and doing all sorts of, always doing great stuff. So I'm excited to actually be able to secure him for all of you. So I'm actually sharing some David time right now. But if you have any questions, please reach out.
Oh, thanks, Nick. Appreciate that. Let me see if I can see more on this comment. You're very kind. You've explored chanting mantras, and if so, what are your thoughts and feelings surrounding this practice? Do you have any thoughts on that, or do you want me to?
You can answer. Yeah.
All right. Explored chanting mantras. Explored, yes. Made a regular practice of it, no. But what are my thoughts and feelings surrounding it? I think the currency, the value that we have is our attention. Chanting, similar to other forms of meditation, can be effective because it focuses your attention. Whether you meditate on a candle flame, listen to your breath, chant a mantra. Again, like you said earlier, Nick, the intention when you're going into this practice is key. But what I found, I think this is common with a lot of meditative practices, you get one thing, and like chanting a mantra can get your conscious mind to focus on one thing. And then what's cool about this when you get good at it, and I've heard the expression, is you get your mind to focus on this one thing, and then you listen around it. And that's when your intuition and your higher self kind of comes in and delivers these insights. And it can be, a verbally elite insight where you get sort of like a logical aha moment, or it can be something subtle and beyond words where it literally creates a shift in your physiology and electrochemical signals throughout your body. I mean, there's really no end. But I think it all serves as a means to access your body's higher wisdom so that it can heal in whatever way it actually needs. We try to sometimes explore these spiritual things and these practices while still having this lingering sense that we've got to control things. No, I got to do it this way. I got to count the beads, and I got to ring the bell 3 times, whatever it is. I don't think it's so much about those rules. But again, short story long, I think what chanting mantras can do, similar to other methods of meditation, is to help your mind focus and just bring it, if it's all in the staticky, like sort of all over the place mode, bring it to a singular focus, and then your higher wisdom can kind of come in. I hope that makes sense.
Because a lot of times when I talk to people about doing meditations, they say, I can't meditate, my brain is all over the place. And my answer is, congratulations for being a normal human being. Yeah. The reality is that the job of the brain is to think. So we're not used to, especially in this day and age, our brains, we're thinking about everything. We're all over the place. So whether it's a mantra like you were saying, or for myself with my clients, what I like to remind everyone is to do their morning affirmations. And again, it's all, just like David said, it's all about focus. So it's all about putting your intention into a certain place so that you can focus on your healing or whatever it is that you're trying to focus on at that time. I see you're reading another question.
Yeah. No, Lauren, actually right on. Thanks for joining in for sure. She said that she started looking into Reiki sessions a couple weeks ago. Video couldn't have come at a better time. Sure, absolutely. Hope it helps.
Things always come when they need to. So that's funny that you said that, because that's something
whether
that
we
when we're
recognize
ready.
it or not, yeah. But yeah, Reiki PSYCH-K is great because again, it kind of puts you in the driver's seat of recreating your life the way you want. Reiki is also awesome, but that can be more of just like a subtle, even like a general support system. So you don't even need to have a specific intention. You know, the client I had a session with today, sometimes he'll come to me with a specific intention, something that he'd like to improve on or heal from. Other times he says, just I'm open to receive, just a general session. And again, it can serve to dramatically reduce stress. A Reiki session can help you get striking emotional insights, and it can also work as simply as getting your body or your mind-body-spirit complex, whatever you want to call it, into a place where chronic stress is relieved and set aside. It's very often not dissimilar from that deep restorative sleep, if you ever get that, where you're actually comfortably deeply asleep and stress begins to finally release, like that REM state of sleep, and then your body can actually go about, instead of combating stress, can actually go about to repairing and healing you. And I think that works on both the physical and the mental emotional level. So Reiki is a fantastic support. You don't even have to have something that you're looking to accomplish to experience tremendous benefits. And I would just again certainly encourage people to go into these things with an open mind. You don't have to believe anything that I'm telling you, but you do yourself a favor by at least suspending disbelief long enough to have the experience and see what it means. And it's not about adopting any new belief system. You don't have to sign up. It's not a cult or a religion. It really is, on the contrary, a way to access the wisdom that you have within you. In my experience, that's the truth. That's the reliable part. Because there's a lot coming at us, and everyone wants something to believe in. You don't want to just be a wandering generality with a mediocre life, but if you're open to it, you can receive a lot of insight and help from your higher self. And Reiki and Psyche are just ways to really facilitate that.
And yeah, thank you for that. I'm reading, Nick, what you wrote. Yeah, there's this really amazing thing where, there's a big shift at really trying to help bring the world to a more elevated place. And our hope is that what we can bring is to help bring people up and to help elevate people and give them strength to become the best versions of themselves. Because I know for myself, when I was not the best version of myself, I was not accomplishing very much. And there's always work. In my mind, there's always work. So if we can help other people get to a better place, more productive place, it actually helps the world. So it's really exciting to be able to be a part of this journey and have someone who shares in my excitement for this journey as well.
Well, the larger context for this work is world peace, and it's not even about work, because it doesn't matter what you do. If you don't have a still, calm, peaceful center, what do you really have? And it's been said by many before me that if you want to have a peaceful world, you need to have a world full of peaceful people. There's no law that's going to go into place that's going to make the world a better place. Yeah. And we don't need laws. We don't need religion. We don't need any external constructs to be good people. And it's not even about morality. We can consider ourselves moral, but we aren't. It's not about following a moral code. We are, by our very nature, divine, loving beings. And that's why a big part of the spiritual work for me is not about gaining some new insight or new tool or anything like that, or even becoming this greater person. It's more about just getting rid of the stuff that's obscuring that true divine nature that is infinite and doesn't require justification. It's just getting rid of the stuff that is not you, to get down to your true pure self. Scroll back a little bit.
No, we answered Nick.
Okay. The truth is being revealed to us all, Nick, yeah. And it's that still small voice. Joseph says, I was thinking the same thing, putting out positive energy is what I always have done. You're a better man than me. However, recently I was drained by a casual relation, and so quickly, thank you for reminding me. love shouldn't hurt. Kind of you to say, man. And again, the one thing I'll always maintain is that you make your own rules. And, if you want to empower yourself, you can start to look at shifting your mindset. Again, PSYCH-K can adjust beliefs about any area of your life, because there's literally no area of life where your beliefs about that don't matter. And again, sometimes it takes a little digging and introspection and talking to someone who's experienced, a coach, a facilitator like myself, to really kind of get down to the nuts and bolts of it. But you can change the rules, and whether it's relationships, your personal physical health, spirituality, your relationship with money, self-esteem, personal power, your ability to take action and make change in your life, grief and loss, and how you've been dealing with pain and things from the past that are holding you back. PSYCH-K will really put you in the driver's seat, and there's nothing that you can't accomplish. And it's really so elegant and simple when you actually experience it that for me, there's really nothing better. So.
And to kind of add to that too, I was just thinking, one of the things that I talk about is that I didn't know that love could feel so good. So when you said being loved shouldn't hurt, I know it's the name of the page and the group and the book and everything else, but to really be able to feel that and to experience that and say, I would not allow anything other than love that feels good now into my life. I would not allow anyone who's going to bring down my energy and make me feel worse. But actually, when you actually have a good partner, and it starts with yourself, obviously, you have to love yourself first, number one priority, but then you're able to help each other and inspire each other to move even further forward than you thought was even possible. So it's great to be able to have that once you figure out that piece. And of course, we can help you with that if that's what you're looking for.
And you use that word peace, and we use that in the PSYCH-K community. In fact, Rob Williams, the originator, wrote the book on PSYCH-K, literally and figuratively, and it's called The Missing Piece, with a puzzle pattern on the front. But the play on words is that piece, as in puzzle pieces, crossed out and replaced with PEACE, the missing piece in your life. And I found that PSYCH-K, as an example, was the missing piece, because, again, I had spent time in therapy, I had read the self-help books, I had spent time in introspection, I'd made a bunch of mistakes over and over again and got some insight based on real-life experience. And yet those things weren't changing my life. And PSYCH-K was the missing piece, where it actually takes the insight and the wisdom that you've gained and makes it you. So it's the difference between like the expression, knowledge that you passively learn versus knowledge that you become. So again, if you've got some good ideas and some feelings like, yeah, I'm ready to make a real change in my life, I'm tired of feeling like shit, I want to make better things happen for myself, I don't need to be in control of everything, but I just want to be able to deal with things better, you're right there, guys. And again, it's never ceases to amaze me how powerful this work is, because one of my dear clients has told me within a short period of time that he went from suicidally depressed to feeling better than he ever dreamed was possible. And maybe it's a coincidence, I don't take credit for that. Again, we did, he put in the work, we did the work together, repeated PSYCH-K and Reiki sessions, and it's really remarkable the power that you have within you to change. This is really the best way that I've come across in all my years of searching and trying lots and lots of different things, lots of different modalities. This is really the two main things that have made the biggest impact for me in my life.
Megan said she can't wait to watch the whole thing, and I can't wait for you either. Feel free, anyone who's watching this, to share this with anyone that you think this might be helpful for. And Terry, you'll have to watch the recording, because we just did the whole first half hour was on PSYCH-K. So
yeah, it's all in there, Terry. So feel free to watch from the beginning and drop a line in with any questions. I'm glad to answer any questions you put out.
We'll go back and answer whatever questions anybody has. So are there any other questions as of right now? Any more details anybody wants to know more about, or again, any questions for David and I? Again, we're both coaches, and I it's, for me, it's so exciting because I love the fact that there's the ability of having a guy give a perspective, because I think a lot of the guys feel like they're not represented very well. And so, you know, to have, that was one of the things we talked about. It was like, David, you don't understand, like, to have another male perspective, I think will be really helpful. So, you know, you can have, there's a guy perspective and the female perspective. So, you know, however we can help you again on that journey from both of our perspectives, that's what we're here for. That's what we're giving.
And look, guys, we're all in this together. You know, I like the idea that we're all angels for one another. You know, I just happen to, you know, followed my path, and you know, like a lot of us, the road rose up to meet me. You know, I don't claim to have had this grand vision. Certainly not a guru or anything like that. You know, having a human experience as a spiritual being, and you know, that's a new context, and the rewards are far beyond anything that I could ever say. So I guess it's probably worth closing with that idea that no matter where it is that you've come from and what you've experienced and how many times you've fallen and gotten back up and had your faith tested and all that, far greater things are possible for you. And I just want to encourage, especially the people who are struggling, and I know there are a lot of those out there, to not give up, because in the end, you can't lose. You can't lose. And I'd love to be able to share even just some more of my personal insight with you, even on a one-to-one basis, if you want to have a consult call with me or whatever. You know, I'm glad to share a little bit more of my perspective, you know, particularly in terms of my own experience, how that was true for me. But if you're on this video, if you're watching this video, you might be a lot closer to a major breakthrough than you realize. So you know, definitely reach out to us if we can help you.
And being here is, you know, kind of, I'm getting teary even thinking about it. The fact that had we not done the work that we needed to do, we wouldn't be here. And we look at each other all the time and we're like, can you believe that this is real life now? Like it's really
amazingly
cool.
Gratifying, and at the same time, I'm ever more humble and you know, don't take anything for granted. You know, the past is the past. The future is, you know, it's not really promised. All we've got is today. And the great thing about this work is that it re-empowers you to live in the moment, which is where life really exists. You know, the past is, you know, history, and the future is a mystery, and right. All we have is the gift of now, which is why they call it the present. I know that's
You've got lots of these today, huh?
No, I think that's on a calendar.
But yeah, I mean, I had something, but with that amazing insight,
yeah,
I totally
I'm
got
a tough
lost.
act to follow. Right there. Wow.
All right. Well, it was great having all of you come and hang out with us for a little bit. Hopefully we can do this again. So if you have any questions, please feel free to, again, write them down, comment. We will respond to every question that we possibly can.
Yeah, and if you want to delve into more of these topics, I mean, you know, put the word out there. I might be convinced to do another one of these. It was kind of fun.
Does like to talk also, so it's not just me.
Well, not just to hear myself talk. Hopefully it's, you know, helpful to somebody. But
yes. So yeah, again, if there's any questions, Lenore, thanks for coming in. We're just going to sign off now. But definitely rewatch the video. It'll be available to anyone who wants to watch it. And again, thank you so much for tuning in, and hopefully we'll see you all very soon. Have a great night.
Love you guys.
Bye.